Welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're so glad that you are here today. We're brought to you by a few different sponsors, by the Center for Progressive Christianity, an incredible place to find all your progressive Christian resource needs and really leading the movement on what it means to be a progressive Christian. The Christian Left, a nationwide ministry and community for Christian progressives and allies, and the Progressive Christian Alliance, a movement denomination that rallies around the principles of justice, respect, and inclusion. And oh boy, do we need more and more
Boy,
of
oh
that
boy.
these days. I'm here with Mark Sandlin. How you doing today, Mark?
I am doing great, man. I am looking forward to the show, to the discussion. We should have a good time, I imagine.
I think so, because
Yeah.
today we're talking about Elio. And even though it's a kid's show, we are still going to start off with some cocktails because that's
Yeah,
how we do it here at the Moonshine Jesus
indeed.
Show. What do you got?
Well, I'm not actually doing a cocktail,
Mm,
but I am doing an alcoholic drink. So I just kept, for various reasons, we had
yeah.
two single parents
Yes.
in this show. And
Mhm.
I kept finding moments where I identified with them because I
Mhm.
was basically a single parent for a good part of my kids growing up.
Yeah.
And so there was just one evening where Elio's mom was having dinner and she was having one of my favorite drinks with dinner,
Yeah.
red wine. So
Red
I
wine.
said that connection just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so I have a nice glass of a Cabernet Sauvignon, one of my favorite drinks, like next to bourbon. This is my next favorite drink. I said, I'm just doing this. This is where I'm going. Plus, I didn't want to have to figure out how to make a red and blue drink to match the one from the guy from the yeah.
Yeah,
So
the one
for
that
the
they were all
communiverse,
drinking.
for the
Yes.
communiverse, I was like, I don't know how to do that, and I'm not gonna.
Yes.
So, how about you? What'd you go with?
I went through a very similar process actually of thinking, I don't think I know how to make that drink. I'm not going to figure it out. So I don't have a cocktail today either,
How
believe
about
it or
that?
not.
Yeah.
So I decided I've called this the Abduct Me, and
Okay.
it's just
Good job.
it's sparkling wine and green food coloring. And so I
Oh.
liked the thought that the bubbles were going up as if you were getting
Like he would
abducted.
be
I liked
going
the
up.
thought of the green beam. And so that's
I
what I've got.
like it.
An
That's
abduction.
very creative, man. I like it.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thank you. Cheers to you, Mark. Let's have a sip and come back on the other side.
Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Moonshine Jesus. Won't you shine a light?
Welcome to our Geek Out segment where we're going to geek out a little bit about the show, about the mechanics behind movies, all of that kind of thing. And we promise to keep this part pretty short. We can't help it. We need to let our flags fly. But we're going to move on as quickly as possible to our political and a theological segment where we talk a little bit about what the movie brought up for us. But for those of you who may be uninitiated into Elio, which I think there might be quite a few who maybe aren't, it's an animated sci-fi adventure with sort of buddy movie charm and a touch of comic horror, I suppose, or cosmic horror, in which a shy and lonely 11-year-old kid named Elio, whose parents have passed away and who is obsessed with being abducted by friendly aliens, accidentally gets himself abducted by friendly aliens who take him to the Communiverse, which is a sort of intergalactic counselor of alien species where they mistake him for the Earth's leader. And then to get home, he'll have to bluff his way through alien politics, face some surprisingly spooky encounters for a kid's movie, and discover the courage to be himself and ultimately lean on the one person who believes in him the most, his brilliant, space-obsessed aunt, legal guardian. So, Caleb.
Yes.
You were fortunate to be watching it with your both kids or one of your kids?
Both kids.
Both kids, which this is a movie that you really, I'm thinking you should be watching with kids with you. So I am going to get to what you thought. What did your kids think? That's what I want to know.
They liked it. They really liked it, and it was kind of fun because also by happenstance, my kids' friends were there, and
Nice.
so there was that dynamic. And then it's one of my kids is almost 10, the other is 4, and so it also was a good reminder to me how chaotic it is to go and try and see a movie with your kids. And so it was
Yeah.
really kind of fun because I had a seat to myself, and then my girls shared a seat next to me,
Oh, cute.
and shared the popcorn and all that stuff. So it was kind of just a fun communal
Nice.
experience. And they were both of my girls are into sci-fi stuff.
Nice.
My youngest one is obsessed with Star Wars, and particularly Darth Vader. Like, she
Mm.
wears a Darth Vader mask to school. She's into Darth Vader. And so they're both into space stuff. My
Yeah.
oldest had a space themed birthday party. So
Cool.
they were all about this movie. They liked it. They weren't scared of the alien stuff. They liked all of that. They thought that was fun. And it was a little hard for the youngest one to sit through the movie,
Sure.
but they enjoyed it. They were fans, and they
Cool.
want to go back and see it again.
Excellent. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, what about you? Are you excited to go back and see it again?
I thought it was. I thought that it's the kind of movie that at the beginning of the movie
You've
you
already
kind of
stuttered enough that I'm guessing where you're going. It was kind of the thing is.
well, Mark, the thing is, it's the kind of movie where at the beginning of the movie, you know exactly how it's going to go, how it's going to play out. I
Yeah.
thought it was a fun movie for what it was. And I did think that there was a lot of heart. I thought that it was good to see a different types of families, and I thought the message was good. I thought there was a lot there. Was I clamoring to go back and see it again? Not really. I thought it was predictable, but it was in a different genre, and it was fun to be kind of in a different genre. And
Yeah.
I appreciated that this was also an original story. This wasn't just the same thing rehashed that we often get.
Mhm.
And I appreciated that. How about you? What do you think of it, Mark?
You know, I don't know. The thing is, I was
Well,
just,
yeah, well,
it's kind of,
let me, yeah,
I was just, I liked it.
yeah.
There you go.
Eh,
I liked it.
So we kind of landed in the same spot on that one,
Yeah,
Mark.
I mean, there were parts of it like that felt that I loved.
Yeah.
And there weren't a lot of parts that I loved.
Yeah.
Also, not any parts I really hated.
Mhm.
But it felt there was this sort of 80s Spielberg Amblin movie feel to it.
That's true. Yeah.
That just even in the way that they filmed it and it looked, there was just something about it that felt like that, which as a kid growing up in the 80s pulls that pulls me in immediately. If you give me those feels,
Yeah.
I'm going to be into it a little bit. And it's like you said, it was pretty predictable. There wasn't really any plot twist that surprised
Yeah.
you. I was surprised at some of the little more aggressive, almost horror leaning
Yeah.
spaces. I was curious how kids might handle that.
Mhm.
It wasn't too intense, but it was there.
Yeah.
I felt like this was a movie that was wearing its heart on its sleeve, but never invited me to understand that heart. I couldn't.
Mhm.
It never hooked me with that. If I could tell that it was there the whole time, that it was just emoting as hard as it knew how to do, but for some reason it never fully
Didn't quite
clicked.
grab you. Yeah.
It never fully clicked. You were pleasantly happy the whole time.
Right.
It needed something, and I don't know that I know what that something was.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so here, go maybe related to this.
Yeah.
It had pretty positive reviews. I mean, there weren't any
Mhm.
really a lot of negative reviews.
Yeah.
But it also has had the lowest Pixar opening weekend ever.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is the case? I mean, it opened against a couple of other movies that were attractive movies for folks, but other Pixars have done that, and I'm just curious, why is this the lowest opening weekend movie ever for a Pixar movie?
I think it is really what you were talking about. It doesn't really grab you in the same way, and
Mhm.
still, like from the beginning, maybe this is part of it. Like from the beginning, we see that Elio really wants to get abducted, and we find out that it's about his parents' death, but it doesn't really grab you with those emotions
Mhm.
on that. Like I think about Up, right, where we see the couple
Right.
together, we see them grow up together, and then we experience the loss. There was
Yeah.
no like experience of loss here. It was just telling us about it, which I guess is what you probably should expect from a kids movie. But I think
Right.
that that's something that Pixar has done really well, is that they
Yeah.
make us feel emotionally connected. And so I think that was a piece of it that I didn't feel the emotional connection there or the loss there in the same way that I have in the past. I also wonder about marketing. If
Yeah.
I don't think this has been marketed very heavily. There I do know that there are toy tie-ins at McDonald's, but I don't think that it's been marketed real heavily. If I hadn't had kids, would I have even known that this was coming out? Probably not. Of course, I probably wouldn't have gone to see it if I didn't have kids. So I don't think there's been a real strong marketing push, and so that's another piece of it. And it honestly, it just really is predictable, Mark. I think the
Yeah.
stories that grab us are stories that are surprising in some way. And I think about like say Toy Story 3, another Pixar movie that that really is a kids movie that is kind of aimed at the parents who were kids when they saw the original movie. And so like it's pulling on nostalgia of that, but also pulling on like what it means to be a parent now and dealing with your
Right.
kids. And it just doesn't have that kind of the feels for that for me. What do you think it is?
Yeah. I, I was surprised when I saw the numbers, honestly. That's not fair. It wasn't heavily attended when I went, but I tend to
Yeah.
go like I'm Saturday matinee on purpose, just
Yeah.
so I have a little space and I don't feel like it's, and but I expected it to be a little bit better
Yeah.
just because it's not a bad movie. It's not
Yeah.
an incredible movie,
Right.
but it's not even close to a bad movie. It's got fun,
Right.
it's exciting,
Right.
it's
It
got
is fun to
and
watch. Yeah.
and we don't see a lot of animated sci-fi, and so I thought that maybe that uniqueness might pull people in. Um, I think it is partly marketing that we just didn't they didn't come at us a lot like they have on other things. Um, and I think that even the marketing they didn't do it in a way that would engage you, made it seem more like an adventure. And
Mhm.
honestly, this isn't an adventure movie. I mean,
Mhm.
it's got adventure in it. That's
Mhm.
sort of secondary, though. I mean, because I'm actually curious about this. I'm going to kind of go ahead and shift a little bit on this. Um, this is really a movie about loneliness,
Mhm.
ultimately. Um, I wonder, setting it within a sci-fi setting and having a little kind of adventure and him going off in this fantastical world. Do you think that hurt helping having people identify with the loneliness? I mean, loneliness, part of what we identify with is how sad it is and how lonely and isolated and not exciting it is. But we have this lonely character that we throw into this adventure. Is that part of what's going on here? I don't know.
It could be, and I think maybe the fact that we don't get a lot of sci-fi animated films, I mean, maybe that's part of it too, that just that I mean, we know that people have a thirst for sci-fi stuff, but
Mhm.
since we don't see that a lot, maybe people didn't know quite what to do with that. And I do feel like there have been some other movies like that, maybe like the Disney movies in the 2000s where there were some more sci-fi attempts that didn't quite take off for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're right. Part of the thing about loneliness is that you are living in the moment. I think there's you're living in your reality, and there isn't just this radical escape from it.
Right.
So maybe spending some more time with that element would have helped, or grounding it a little bit more. But you're right, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that did hurt it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth
Yeah.
on that thought. In that, one, that he's off on this exciting adventure,
Yeah.
and that's just a distraction from loneliness, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, going, I think they may have missed some opportunity of having his loneliness be explored in a different way, because he was in space, he was isolated, he was surrounded by people he didn't people by aliens that he did
Aliens?
not know, that he didn't have a relationship with. He had no full clue how far away he was from Earth, and
Yeah.
if he'd ever go back. I think there were so many opportunities to further explore his loneliness and isolation, and instead they made it an adventure. And that,
Yeah.
I don't know, that felt like maybe that was a little bit of a misstep.
Yeah.
That they had an opportunity to double down on his isolation and loneliness, and that would have made his buddy Gordon that he
Yeah.
meets. It would have made that relationship even more special. That all of a sudden I'm not deeply isolated, whereas Gordon felt like I said, it comes off almost like a buddy movie. Like I was having this good time, and then I met this good buddy, and we started doing good fun thing. You know, there's a little bit of that in it.
Loneliness solved forever.
Right. It just felt a little that there was this depth that they had a potential to explore and chose not to. Now, maybe it was because they didn't want it to be that sad for kids. I don't know exactly, but I did feel like the space adventure was sort of two-sided. One, it was a little bit too much fun, but two, it was also a missed opportunity to further explore isolation and loneliness.
Well, and Mark, there have been a lot of movies that have dealt with some pretty tough things for kids.
Yeah,
I think about
true.
even what's the Emotions movie? That is that a DreamWorks one, or maybe it's Pixar?
That is a DreamWorks one. Yeah,
DreamWorks.
I'm
do you
trying to remember the
of it?
name of it, because
I can't. But the Feelings one, and
Yeah.
I mean, they're dealing with heavy issues. The second one's dealing with puberty, and it's still it does it in a way that is appropriate for
brilliant.
kids, but it handles the emotional depth of it all, and
Yeah,
maybe
completely
that's
agree.
it. We just didn't quite handle any of that.
Maybe Pixar didn't trust kids'
Yeah.
emotional development enough to go to a little deeper than they went, and maybe that could have helped. I don't. Yeah, it felt a little shallow. It did. It was fun. It was loving. Like I said, heart on the sleeve kind of movie, but it never quite got there. So anyway, we could go on and on. I think that it's worth watching. Let me say that right here. It is worth watching. I'm sorry for you. It may not be worth watching twice, but it is worth watching. So
it's the theaters, though. Also, Mark, like if it's cool and it's dark, it is a pretty good place to take a nap if you want to go watch it a second time.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, I am seeing it online. I just saw Pam Alexander said that the whole thing was new to her. So I think maybe that is part of the problem here, is that they just didn't do a good job of letting people know it was out there. But it's worth watching. If you're looking for a good time, how to spend, 99 minutes or something, just to enjoy yourself and get some fun characters, it's worth it. But we're going to take a quick drop and come back on the other side and explore some of the theological and political themes that popped up in this movie. So quick drink, and we'll see you on the other side of this drop.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We have geeked out thoroughly, and now it's time to explore theology and politics of Elio, which is a kid's movie, but does have theopolitical themes. So glad to dive into this a little bit, Mark. I thought this race that Gordon was interesting because on the outside they're this warrior, with all this armor, and on the inside they're basically like a silkworm. Uh,
A soft and squishy silkworm.
a soft and squishy silkworm, so not the most threatening.
Right.
And I guess I was thinking about this in terms of some of the division that's going on in the country right now. And I'm thinking particularly about interfaith relationships.
Mm.
And I was with interfaith leaders in Canada about a week ago, and I was so surprised that the interfaith relationships had held there, because it seems like interfaith relationships have just kind of fallen apart everywhere, and particularly over the issue of Israel and Palestine. And it seems to me that like people have picked their line in the sand, and it's kind of like the armor has come up. I'm curious, Mark, is there a way to get past the division that exists in our society, especially on Israel Palestine? Is there a way for us to get out of the armor and to get to the inner silkworms that maybe we had before October 7th,
Right.
2023?
It's going to be hard, that's for sure. Politically, the U.S. is pretty guilty, and probably the group that is most responsible for trying to create a world, not just our society in the U.S., but trying to create a world where people pick sides, double down, and don't want to lose. And truth goes out the window. And to make truth go out the window, you have to get rid of facts and education and knowledge.
Yeah.
And we've watched, particularly one party in the U.S., do a pretty outstanding job at pursuing all of that and establishing it pretty well, and looking for the world players who do the same thing and idolizing them. Oddly, people that we would have villainized even 20 years ago.
Yep.
And now we idolize them, or at least a big segment of our. So we have to reverse all of that. And that's going to be a long process, frankly. Can it be done? Yes, but there's got to be more willing people to do that. You're going to have to establish the argument of why it's necessary, and the damage that will occur to all of us, because one side believes if they can win, they get to have all the things in the world that they want, even though their lives are showing over and over again. Winning is doing the opposite to them. In the U.S. in particular, winning is actually creating hardships for them. It's actually allowing their elected leaders to hurt them and to go do that over and over again. So can we solve it? Yes, of course we can solve it. Will we? I hope so, man. I just think it is such a long road, and the folks who oppose all of that have some blame in this too, in that we didn't oppose it strong enough, early enough, and make a convincing argument early enough. So now we need to make that argument in the midst of their way of being hard shelled, being well established. That's going to be tough, I think. It can be done. Education, knowledge are key, but you've got to convince them that matters. And that's we throw information and facts at them, not recognizing that they don't care. You've got to establish a way of making that matter, and that's hard. That's my take on it anyway. What do you think, man?
It's a great point. I think it is hard when we're talking about at a national level, and we're talking about national politics. I think that's tricky, and I think it's even trickier when we're talking about international politics and everything that's involved in that. But I think that when we're talking about the local level, I feel like there has to be some hope
Mm.
there, because at the end of the day, all of us normal folks have a limited amount that we can do to influence international policy. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking specifically about Israel and Palestine. However, we we do have control over local relationships and local things that we work on together. And so it's been unfortunate for me that I feel like a lot of my personal relationships in the interfaith sphere have really disintegrated over the past
Mm.
couple of years. The relationships I spent years building. And I've heard this from folks all over the country, all over the world, actually, that people have spent all this time trying to build common ground and stuff, and it's all fallen apart.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that if we are able to rebuild friendships and relationships and bring the people together, that's a start. But I do think that there has to be a willingness to be honest and to say things like, um, okay, we may not agree on everything, but can we find the things that we agree on? Is it still
Common
possible to
ground.
work on some things together? Homelessness,
Right.
immigration. I mean, is it possible to find some common ground here to work on, or is one thing so divisive that it's going to stop us from working together on absolutely everything? And I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree,
Yeah,
because it's stuff that you and I talk about a lot. That
yeah,
one of the way we fix everything is to start locally. One of
yeah,
the other ways that we fix things is to focus on relationships and not issue.
yeah, yeah,
And so, from what you're saying there, I'm completely on board.
yeah,
It is one of the things, one of the hopes that could reshape this.
yeah.
Finding the common ground to work on together has become really difficult.
Really tough.
Just the
Really
two that
tough.
you named,
Yeah,
homelessness and immigration. There
yeah,
are there are now folks come with preset understandings and belief
yeah,
systems that are false
yeah.
about a homeless person deserving what they get because
Right.
they aren't willing to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Like, you have to overcome that even now
Yeah,
to say, can't we recognize the humanity of a person and
yeah,
appreciate it and say they deserve to at least be treated humanely?
yeah.
And frankly, we've gotten to a point where sometimes that argument falls on deaf ears. Like,
Oh,
no, not all people deserve to be treated humanely somehow.
yeah, even
And
Christians, right?
coming
And
from
this is the
people who are
Christian
saying they're
stance.
Christians,
Yeah.
people who are
Like,
saying they're
no,
Christians.
no,
You
what?
know, it's a longer road. I agree with you, and I love the
Yeah,
hope, and I love the hope that you're communicating, and
yeah,
I love your insight that locally is the way that we begin fixing all of
yeah,
this. I also don't want us to be naive about how far it has gone, and so
yeah,
how hard it's going to be to fix, but it
yeah.
is worth fixing. And the
Yes.
arc of the moral universe does bend towards justice. We just have to do the work to bend it, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, especially when we're talking about, like, say, progressives versus more conservative or MAGA folks. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard. But I'm also just talking about progressives, because progressives have typically been able to find a way to work together, even though we don't agree on everything. But
Mhm.
I think the Israel Palestine issue has really divided progressives, and I'm mainly talking
That's
about
fair.
interfaith progressives, in a way that has felt insurmountable. And
That's fair.
that is so hard. But and I think it is possible for us to rebuild relationships, say, like, hey, can we, like, work on confronting the fascist takeover of our country right now, and say, hey, maybe we're not going to all agree on this. But I think in order to do that, I do think that also involves some compromise. I think it means that,
Mm.
for instance, I think that people have to be willing to say, okay, there is Jewish investment in the state of Israel, and I think that even that Jews who have investment in the state of Israel also have to say, and it's wrong that 60,000 Palestinians have been killed. This is unethical. This is genocide,
Yeah.
and it's complicated. But yes, I mean, I think
Yeah.
if both groups of people could say that, that would go a real long way. But man, that's so tough.
To getting to that point is going to be difficult. I mean, the
Yeah,
conflation of the Jewish faith and the Jewish state are
yeah,
so deep at this point, and
yeah.
and it's tied in. You know, honestly, it's Christian Zionism that's the worst at it than anyone.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's such a complexity here that we have to unravel,
Yeah.
address, and re-educate. Man, that's it's I'm glad there's folks who are smarter than me that are working on this.
Yeah, well, I hope that we're all working on it, and that
All right.
and that somebody finds a way for it to actually happen, because it doesn't seem to me that it's happening on national level. It doesn't seem that it's happening great on local level, and
Mhm.
I've got very limited space in my life where I see it, any kind of interfaith relationships happening at all, and that's really
That's
sad
fair.
because folks like us, Mark, you know, the
Yeah.
mainline Protestants, that's been our bread and butter, is fostering
Yeah.
ecumenical cooperation and interfaith relations, and
Mhm.
finding ways to find common ground on all of this stuff. And
Yeah.
man, right now it just hasn't happened.
It
Well,
really
Mark,
hadn't.
this was our Theo Politico segment, and I asked exactly one question. And I've got to say,
Wow.
I don't think we have ever had a segment
We've
where
never.
we have had one question and we have just really gotten very deep into that one question. But I
Well,
think that's also reflective of the state of our world right now,
you're
is
exactly
that
right, man.
there are so many things, and each of those things is something that could that deserves a real deep dive. So
Uh,
as much as
and I will say,
yeah,
to go back to the movie, there
yeah,
was this hopefulness when he went to the communiverse,
yeah,
which I really like. That it's a fun, goofy, silly word, but
yep,
communion, community, universe,
yes,
universal. That this group of folks coming together from all walks of
yeah.
alien life, finding a way to commune together, to be together, and to operate and to exist together. That's a hopeful note that we all need to be striving for.
That's, that's a good point. That was hopeful, and that is one of the things that sci-fi has been able to give us, is
Mm.
a vision for the future where
Mhm.
maybe we can have a better universe if we can find ways to be together. And it's hard and there are struggles, but that's
Yeah.
also part of it. And so I love that, the communiverse. So cheers to the communiverse, Mark. And
Indeed.
let's come back and try to make each other look stupid.
Welcome to our Make Me Look Stupid segment, or one of our favorite segments. It's probably our favorite segment, where we actually actively try to make our co-hosts look stupid, or force them to predict something so we can make them look stupid in the future, or actually just admit that we are feeling kind of stupid and ask for a little help and enlightenment. I'm going to do none of those now that I've introduced the segment. That last segment was so heavy. I just want to have a little fun. S This movie was full of sort of tip of the hats and Easter eggs. What was your favorite?
My favorite Easter egg here. It was not the fact that the ant was working for the Space Force. That was not an Easter egg that was fun for me. Let's see. Um, I'm trying to remember. I don't. I
There were
can't
actually
think of my
bunches of
favorite.
them But
Yeah, I can't
my
think of
big
my
one?
favorite. What's
Here's the
yours?
one
What's
that
yours? Maybe it'll spark some thoughts for
I
me.
actually had like a verbal sound, and it
Yeah,
wasn't even a sound that made any sense. I don't even know
yeah.
what it was. But when we saw the mountain from Close Encounters,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, for me, it was like, because I was getting all of these 80s
Yeah,
emblem film kind
yeah.
of feels to it, and them
Uh,
actually kind of
homage to
acknowledging
Steven
that.
Spielberg.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I have to say that made me maybe that's part of the problem with the movie. It was one of the happiest moments of the movie for me.
Hey, nostalgia. Yes, yes.
So that I mean, yeah, I think that was a big one for me. I really enjoyed seeing that.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I'm sure there were several other ones that I remember going, oh, but that was the one that just stood out for me. I won't hold your feet to the fire on this
that's
one.
good. I may have been too distracted with my children
That makes sense.
to catch some of those.
That
So,
makes complete sense. Yeah, I get
but
that. I get that.
and I feel like I kind of feel like a bad nerd right now, Mark, because I've never seen Close Encounters, and that's
What?
I should be embarrassed about
What?
that. I think I know, right?
Dude, that is
That's
I am
bad.
I'm a I'm
Uh,
I don't even know how to respond.
Well
I'm a little
disappointed, aren't you?
I'm disappointed. I'm concerned.
I know.
I feel like you've missed out. Like that movie, man.
It's
Wow,
a benchmark movie.
it is. It is.
So,
And there's so many movies that reference it.
yeah.
Yeah, just like
It's
this
also
one.
it's also a like this one that I didn't catch, and, it's also a collaboration between Spielberg and Williams, it's a
It was one of the
classic
big ones,
rest
man.
yeah,
It was
so
exceptional. I mean, it's still good filmmaking, but back then it was the top of filmmaking, man.
yeah.
It was an event. An
Yeah,
event.
I
Okay, all
that
right, all
the
right.
one I missed,
I
okay.
I came into this just trying to have a good time, and I managed to make you look stupid anyway. So this was great. This is really working for me. This is really working for me. But now
I know,
I
you
will hand it
also got a
over.
confession out of me, I
I
mean,
know. I mean,
you real
I
magic on this one,
had
Mark.
no clue that I was going to win that big on that question. But there you go. Your turn, though. Have at it. Let me have it, sir.
I just kind of in this mood to talk about politics today, Mark, and so
Oh, great.
I'm just going to go
Great.
back to it. And we see Elio needs to negotiate with a warlord, and they say that one of the ways to do that is listening with empathy. But you need to start from a position with power. I'm just curious, Mark. Is there a way of negotiating with our current warlord in chief?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. He is so single-minded.
Yeah.
So now this all could be a giant act. I don't think so at this
Yeah.
point. He's also so lacking in logic. Like
Yeah.
being able to connect A and B and see how that might point to C seems like something historically throughout his life that he just is not capable of. And so, how do you have negotiations with a person who can't do that? I don't. I wouldn't say that about many people. I honestly wouldn't. That's just not how I
Yeah.
see people in the world. But
Yeah.
his history makes me go, either he is putting on this incredible show that he's upheld longer than anyone could reasonably do to make us all think that that's the case, just so he can do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Dude really can't logic. He can't.
Can't logic.
And when a person can't make those connections, well, you can't walk a person through if A, then B, therefore C. When you can't do that with a person, I'm not sure how you ever negotiate other than in whatever language that they understand. And the only language he understands is power and money.
Yeah.
I have no interest in negotiating with anybody from those standpoints. That'll eat you up from the inside sooner or later, one way or the other. It makes you just as bad.
Yeah.
We become the monster that we're fighting if we do that. And I'm not okay with that. So
Yeah.
you stumped me, man. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I mean, I don't think there's any negotiating with him. There, there leverage, even money and power. Money and power has sway for a time, like
Right.
with Elon Musk, and then it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's just one of the dangers of rising fascism is that it feels like there is little that you can do to stop it, at least
Yeah.
by traditional means. That you can't just say, I'm going to collect a bunch of signatures and then they'll listen to that, or
Right.
or we'll have millions of
mean,
people out protesting, and then they'll get the point and they'll stop doing what they're doing.
The only thing that even sort of works is
Yeah.
threatening his power, like a genuine threat to his power.
Yeah.
But then rather than his response tends to be to distract.
Yeah.
Do something worse and more horrible.
Bomb Iran.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, we had the largest protest in the world 7 days ago against the U.S. president. Let's do something more drastic than any president has done in the past 30 years and make people shut up about that and on all the other things that we don't want them talking about. And it's worked, man. I mean, have you seen the news cycle?
It has worked. I mean, I think that is one thing that he does really understand, and that's the news cycle and how to distract. And I think
absolutely does. You're right.
I think the responsibility is on us, though, not to address things as they happen, but not to get distracted, and
Agreed.
to say, hey, look, the enemy is here from within, and we have to do everything we can to ensure the judicial measures are stopping him, and to ensure that we are electing different people who will actually stand up to him as well.
And we go back to the earlier argument of one of the best ways is to start locally.
Yeah.
Make the changes locally and rebuild the infrastructure from the small towns back out and back up through the states and through the nation.
Yeah. And man, being here in California and seeing ICE deployed so heavily here has also been a real lesson to, I do think that both the mayor of LA and the governor of California do some lip service to stuff rather than actually stopping things. However, I do think that when you've got people who at least are saying this is unethical, we don't believe in this, that when you've got people who are willing to fight those battles, even if it's just on X or whatever, that at least they're standing up for that. And so I think having politicians that won't just roll over is pretty important.
Yeah, indeed. Well, listen, we could go on and on about this easily.
And we would.
And we would, because it's important information. And there's so many dimensions to it, and there's so many pieces that we could dig into and pull out. But we are at the end of our time together for this podcast. We need something to watch next time. There's not a lot of major things coming out. So I have a proposal for you.
Okay.
And it is likely, I'm going to say this right here and now, it is likely to be a little bit silly. But
I'm okay with that. I think maybe I need that.
After this discussion, I feel like silly might work. So there's a movie that is now available. I think currently it's only available on Amazon, and I think it's about a $6 rental. I don't think it's one of the more expensive, like $20 ones. And in a week or so, it comes out to Apple TV. But the movie's name is Tim Travers and the Time Traveling Paradox. And so this is the 3-sentence description. What happens if you travel back in time and eliminate your younger self? Terminally bored, mad genius Tim Travers seeks to find the answer and unravel the time traveler's paradox. The result? A crazy comedic adventure beyond comprehension. and it stars Samuel Dunning, Felicia Day, Joel McHale, Danny Trejo. I think that this could be a kind of goofy, silly, fun movie that also picks at all of these time travel stories, and maybe, I don't know, makes you pick which time travel you think is what real time travel, if it were to exist, would be like. So it could be a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm into it. Time travel. Excellent. Let's do it.
That is the show for next time. Tim Travers and the Time Traveling Paradox. And that said, we want to thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. This is our favorite time of the week, getting to do this, getting even prepared for it and watching the shows and thinking about them. So thank you for tuning in, giving us the reason to be doing this. We appreciate you so much. With that said, we'll catch you the next time on the Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine